What's up everybody, I'm Rassi and welcome to another Lost Ark video. In this video we'll be taking a look at the lost features of Lost Ark. It's not unusual that MMORPGs will lose some of their features and systems in a span of time. If you are a World of Warcraft player, this happens to you pretty much every single major patch. I had the opportunity to play Lost Ark when it first launched in Korea, and some of its core gameplay features that we have now used to be totally different, and some were actually, in my opinion, way better versions. And some were definitely not. So in this video we'll take a trip to the memory lane and see what Lost Ark was back when it first launched and what features it has lost since. Now this is not a lost feature, but rather a feature that got a huge nerf. Rapport used to be super grindy even in Korean standards. If we now get 200 to 300 points per song or emote, we used to get way less, only 20 to 30 per song or emote, while the Rapport experience needed to advance was about the same, so basically every Rapport NPC used to take 10 times longer to reach max level than it now takes. I mean, look at how much Rapport you can get from these gifts. Even the most easiest Rapport NPCs would take you months to complete. It was widely complained, and gladly the devs took note of this and made some needed changes. The rewards you get from Rapport were also buffed a lot. As you can see, the Rapport feature we now have is far better than what it used to be when the game initially launched, so this definitely was a change for better. Except for Nineveh, which still takes more than 80 days to complete without gifting. There used to be a lot more island specific and other currencies than we now have, like these Black Fangs marks or these private crew tickets, but these have since been simplified a lot and most of them changed to just pirate coins, which was definitely a good change. There used to be random treasure chests, usually in the secret areas, where you find Mokoko seeds and you'd need a legendary key to open them. These chests would drop various different items like pirate coins, card experience, battle items and gambling stones. You could acquire the keys from lots of different activities like adventure tome completions, shipwrecks and sailing treasure maps, to name a few. More about those later. I have absolutely no idea why this content was removed, so if you know anything about this, let me know in the comments, but honestly, it felt pretty good to find one of these to loot. The way people played Cube was way different back in the day, and it was mostly because it was a lot harder due to the lower max item level. It also had bad rewards. Back then it was actually more beneficial to get to the bronze chest and then just immediately quit and not risk losing everything trying to get to the diamond chest. Sometimes though, your team didn't listen and instead wanted to push only to lose everything. The rewards from completing the whole cube wasn't that much more than what you'd get if you only did till the bronze chest, and hence they added masterpiece collectibles as rewards for completing the whole cube to enforce people to do the whole content. The version of Chaos Dungeons we currently have is pretty fun activity where you can just turn your brain off for a minute or two and blow shit to pieces. Before though, these used to be whole dungeons, like those dungeons you did during the leveling phase, and it was not fun at all, it was a chore. So this was yet another change for the better. Another kinda odd change that we've seen is that a lot of the fishing spots that used to be around the islands are not there anymore. They've simply been deleted. You can still see the fishes swimming in the water and the fishing traps, poles and nets lying around. Even the fishing NPCs or the trade skill tool merchants are still there, but you just can't fish there anymore. Not a big thing though, I'm just curious, like, why make this change? If I'd have to guess, it might have something to do with AFK fish spotting, so the bots aren't scattered around the world, but it's just a guess. If you know anything about this change, let me know in the comments. Gear has also had a significant revamp during the years. The gambling stone we now have is like nothing compared to what it used to be. Every single piece of gear you put on used to have 2 secondary stats, which we now only have on our accessories, 2 on the necklace and 1 on each ring and earring. If you had wrong stats on your gear, you of course needed to gamble to get the right ones for your class. And of course, when you gambled, both of the stats on your gear got randomized, so it took a while till you got the correct stat combination, and even then you still might have wanted to re-roll if the stats you got were low. But that's not all, because there were also rune slots on your gear. And not a rune slot, but multiple slots with different possible colors. Unlocking a slot required a specific item. Of course, when you unlocked these slots, the colors came randomly and some colors were better for your class than others. And obviously, you also needed the rune's color to match the color of the slot on your gear. You could change the color of your gear's rune slot, but that wasn't free. It costed a specific item that you then needed to farm. And putting a rune on your gear wasn't just a simple glitch, it of course had a success chance. When you upgraded your gear gained passive skills that affected your abilities. With one upgrade you got one passive, and with 3 upgrades you got 2 passives. These affected things like damage and cooldown of certain skills. And of course, they came randomly, so what you need to do when you don't get what you want? You gamble. They got rid of this, but not entirely, since they made the current gem slot system we now have based on this, but yeah, min-maxing your gear was way different back then, and I'm glad that it has been simplified a lot. It's much more manageable now without the need of that many Excel sheets if you actually want to get invited to any of the endgame content. The west part of the world map is protected by the Wall of Procyon. To get past it, you need to raise your item level to 460 and complete a simple questline. Back in the good old days, you'd actually need to get 15 island tokens to unlock sailing on the west side of the world map. I think this was a good change because not everybody likes to do the island content like I do, and some of the islands have hard RNG or hidden quests and things like that you need to know about to get the tokens, so rather than forcing people to do the island content, they can now freely continue progressing their character, and guess that was a change for better. Island tokens were also the way to get your full tier 1 280 item level set, and you'd need 8 tokens for that. Speaking of sailing, ever wondered why your ship has skills that you can use while sailing, but they don't do anything unless you are on a coop sailing event? Well, sailing used to be totally different than what we have now, and honestly, the version we have now is way less fun. It used to be exciting to sail around, and now it's just plain boring. You put the auto route on from point A to B and go fetch another cup of coffee. Before, you actually sticked around next to your screen to see what you could find next. Is it an epic fishing spot, a rare sea creature, shipwreck, or some floating seamen?
Nice.
Your ship did have energy similar to how life skills have, so you couldn't just spend all days doing sailing activities, but it was plenty. Also, the sailors you chose to your crew mattered more because they raised the skills your ship had, allowing you to, for example, dive deeper or fish better. Spending your sailing energy was part of the daily gameplay loop and the thing you'd do when you finished other activities for the day. And I think that was the reason this was changed. Players kind of felt necessary to deplete their sailing energy. If somebody can read Korean, please check the old patch notes and tell me in the comments below why they did this change, because if we forget about the sailing energy, it was pretty exciting, to be honest, and there was constantly something that might come across your path. Now all of those things that you used to find regularly just by randomly sailing are tied to coop sailing events. It was also a reason to sail different kinds of ships, because the ships had different skills in various different levels. Some ships could plow the shipwrecks free, allowing you to enter them. Some ships were fast enough to hunt the sea creatures better, and so on. Now it's pretty much just everybody with their starter ship stock and a ship skin, and honestly it's pretty boring. There really isn't a reason to invest and change your ship when stock has decent resistances and is fast enough, since there aren't random activities that you'd need a different ship for. It's a huge wasted opportunity at the moment in my opinion, and was a way better feature back in the day. Also, the sea bounties we now have used to be treasure maps that gave you loot, and the map didn't show where the hazardous waters were, so it really felt more like exploring than it does now, where you can just check your map and route around the areas that damage your ship. In today's version of Lost Ark, coast ships can be found in predetermined locations on the map. You get a notification when the event is about to start, and it's just a generic point that spawns on the map. Before, the ghost ship was actually pretty random, and yes, it freaking sailed around. Now imagine being this noob that sails the uncharted hazardous waters, trying to see what's out there and accidentally stumbles upon a ghost ship. How awesome was that? But that's not all, because when the ghost ship noticed you, it sailed right after you, initiating the ghost ship boarding event. I still have no clue why would they change such an exciting mechanic to just a notification and an easy to find spot on your map. Yes, there was a full-fledged card battling system in the game. Each of the NPCs that you can rapport also had a button for card battles. The cards we now have are the same cards, but the cards we used to have also had attack stat, something like 1 to 12, HP stat, something like 10 to 40, an elemental type and some additional abilities. You'd make your deck by choosing 5 cards, and each of the NPCs had predetermined decks of 5 cards also, with 4 different stages of difficulty. Each of the cards costed points, and you only had 20 points to make your deck, so you couldn't just choose all of your best cards. When you won one stage, you could claim rewards and try another, more difficult one where some of the cards of the NPC, or perhaps all of them, were different and more powerful. The elemental typing was pretty simple. You'd had things like Earth and Thunder, where Earth obviously would have advantage against Thunder, making it deal +2 damage and taking 2 damage less. So you choose your cards and go to battle the NPC to see what cards it had in what order. If you lost, you then naturally adjust your cards, perhaps change elemental types and the order of your cards to eventually win the battle and move to the next stage. It was pretty simple and fun side activity that I found myself doing a lot. Collecting new cards was actually exciting. A new card from a boss or from an event was a thing I cheered. However, it also had some stupid things like the card experience, and when you leveled up your cards you could limit break them, making them gain insanely stupid abilities and skills like getting 3% critical hit chance and stuff like that, which were completely unnecessary for such short battles. I'd really love that they'd bring back the card battles, but in a simple format without limit breaking and skills. It was content that the TCG nerd inside me enjoyed a lot. Life skills is yet another feature that got a huge change. Before we had life skill specific skill points that we then put to our desired life skills. What this meant is that you obviously only had 1 or 2 life skills at max level and had to constantly switch it around if you wanted to do other activities. Your skill rank and tool rank was summed up to give you your final life skill rank. In the current version, you just do the activity you want to raise its level and don't have to worry about the skill points at all. Personally, I do like professions in MMORPGs a lot and would prefer a little bit complicated system, but I'm also fine with how it is now. And that was pretty much all the features I could think of that got somewhat huge changes over the years. I like how gear has been simplified and made much easier to manage, but on the other hand I do miss the exciting sailing and the fun card battle minigame. Let me know in the comments what you think about these changes and what changes you would like to see in Lost Ark. What are the most annoying and enjoyable features this game currently has? Except for honing, of course. And that's about it. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Lost Ark content. It's completely free, helps me out a lot, and only under 1% of you is actually subscribed. Thank you for watching, have a great rest of your day, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.